Welcome back to The Grind. In this video, we are going to talk about Rath, the festive hunter for the Aftermath season. At the end, we are also going to discuss some other updates for the season. So the festive branch is 18.5 thousand sigils, and you will get 3 keys from that branch. For the first 2 weeks of its release, the prizes will be 20% boosted. So for every 10 gold chests, you'll actually be getting 12. And they will also still have the repeatable Draconic chest note at the end, where for 500 sigils, you can get 4 Draconic chests, which is an incredible investment for those of you who either have tons of resources or like to spend on the game. You can get a ton of really good resources by investing in that repeatable note at the very end, especially if you're using super sigil chests to get some extra sigils at the end of the season. And then they also threw in the tidbit that the week 10 of this season, the tower levels are going to cap at 127. So they're increasing the tower levels on week 10 of this season. So coming up soon. So Rath's spells. Rath is actually a fairly well-rounded hunter, but I think the potential for this dragon is going to be different depending on where you're at in the game. For those who are higher tier end game players that have several mythics at their disposal, Rath is probably going to be more of a fun dragon to play around with, but not really to use at the competitive level, just because he's going to lack some damage and speed potential. However, those who are lower tier in the game, maybe in the 200 to 300s, and still fighting bases that are 1 to 2, maybe 3 islands long, I think Rath is actually going to be an effective and fun hunter to fly. So let's take a look at the spells. Tattered Gust is a white active 1 rage spell that destroys all midair projectiles and stuns towers for 1 second, and then those towers will take 25% increased damage. So this is going to be very handy, and this is basically your entry spell that will stop all super shots that have been fired at you as long as you're close enough to the tower that fired it. Similar to other dragons we've seen in the past, you have to be close enough to the tower, not just the projectile. And it basically is like a stun freeze spell. So anything that was in the air will be frozen, gone, destroyed, and then the towers will be stunned for 1 second. So for 1 second, they will no longer be activating or firing at all. And then those towers will take more damage. Now that is a short 1 second, so you're going to have to be prepared with another spell. The next spell is On the Brink, which is an active blue 1 rage spell with a 5-second cooldown, and the dragon cloaks for 3 seconds, flies at 50% speed, but while cloaked, you can still use spells and your breath attack. And you'll also have 150% increased ammo regeneration. So this is going to be where you're going to want to focus your ammo spent and maximize it as much as possible. However, it is blue, so you will have to take out a blue mage first, unless there is no blue mage on the island. So this is going to be a challenge. The next one is Ensnaring Wind, which is a red active 1 rage spell that deals 2% of the dragon's modified HP as damage to all towers in a target area, and it should be several towers, at least 2, maybe 3 to 4, depending on how big the radius actually ends up being. But the most important part of the spell is that it disables those towers until they take damage. So if you don't attack those towers, they will stay disabled until the very end of the attack, regardless of how many dragons you use. This is a very important spell, but it is red, so you will have to manage the red mages as well. Next is Desperate Stand and Fading Reserve. So Desperate Stand is just a passive that gives you the spell Fading Reserve every time you attack or destroy a tower. So once you destroy a tower, you will now have the Fading Reserve spell, and it has a 2-second cooldown. It costs 0 rage, and it is white, so you can use it any time as long as it's been 2 seconds since the last cast. Now, this doesn't deal any damage, but it does heal your dragon for 8% health, which is pretty significant, and it also makes you invincible for 1 second, which is not that long, but will come in handy as a last-ditch effort to, survive the rest of the island. You're going to try to avoid a super shot from a howitzer or lightning towers or something like that. You're going to buy time so that you have a little extra time to use the other spells that might have been on cooldown. So lots of spells to use, not much rage that is going into any of the spells, and you get free rage from Fading Reserve, so you want to try to maximize how many times you can use that on the run. So as soon as it's available, you want to use it up so that the next tower you destroy will grant you another Fading Reserve spell. So how would you fly this dragon? Well, when you come around the corner, you're going to want to take out the blue mage initially. So this is going to be challenging because you don't really have any one-shot spells. We're going to assume there's a blue and a red mage on the island, so you can't really disable anything. But when you come around the island, you can start using your ammo on the blue mage before the towers even recognize you. But as soon as you're facing the island, you need to use Tattered Gust, which is going to cause the towers to take more damage, and it's going to prevent the mage towers from firing their super shots at you, and it's going to prevent the shield from activating if you are quick enough, and it's going to basically just protect you for 1 second and allow you that bit of time to destroy the blue mage. Now, if they are spamming hammers, this is going to be challenging, and that's where one of the downsides of this dragon is, because if their base is really boosted up and defended, you might have trouble getting that blue mage down, and therefore you won't really be able to enter the spell kit of this dragon at all. But once you get that blue mage down, you can then use On the Brink, and you're going to quickly be generating back the ammo that you spent. You'll be safe for 3 seconds, and it will slow your speed so that you don't, get too far into the thick of the long island without being prepared for that. And this is where you're going to want to burst down the red mage and hopefully another tower like the shielding tower or a flak tower or maybe a howitzer that's off in the back. And after that, you can use Ensnaring Wind. Now, if you actually took out a back red mage first, you could then disable the back towers while you dealt with the front island. But if you are trying to more so set up a base, you can then take out the red mage on the front island and then disable a couple of those towers and then start focusing on the back. By this time, you already have a fading reserves available. So as soon as you come out of On the Brink, you should be able to use fading reserves to gain back a little bit of health and become invincible. By the time that invincibility ends, you can use Tattered Gust again, and because there's no cooldown, you could use it 2 or 3 times if you have the rage to buy more time till you get On the Brink off cooldown. The thing to remember with Tattered Gust is if you use the spell again before the towers are unstunned, it will not apply a second effect. So you cannot use it after half a second and expect it to extend the duration a second. It will still come off cooldown after the first stun's time duration if you use it again during the effect. So you can't really chain on multiple of these Tattered Gust unless you time it right after the effect has ended. So it can be pretty challenging to do that, but because you do have an ability to heal back and you can throw more Ensnaring Winds to disable all the towers once you've gotten off all the red mages off the base, and that will help you buy time until On the Brink is available, and that is kind of your safety net when you attack the disabled towers. Now if you're used On the Brink, they won't be able to attack you because you're cloaked, plus you're having increased ammo generation. So it will be a little bit challenging to use this dragon effectively when there are several defenders, but once you get the rotation down, I think it'll be a very fun and effective dragon to use once you get those mages out of the way. And not all bases have red and blue mages on each island anymore, so that would make it significantly easier to use Rath against those bases. So potentially a pretty challenging dragon to fly, but it appears to be quite fun spell kit to use. And once you put in the time and investment, I think it would be well worth your effort if you get more used to playing Rath. Now, other updates that they have pointed out to us is week 12, there will be a trading post as well as the next tier launching. And then week 13, there will be a limited time branch. And again, or I guess they said August 17th was the next tier launches. So that I guess is week 12. They also dropped a massive bit of news about the next tier that is launching, which will be in a separate video. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck, and I hope to see you in the next video.